All right. Hi, this is Lynn, and we're live. Today, I want to welcome my special guest, Aimee Perrin, from her YouTube channel is Brisket Boomers. And I have invited Susan to come and join us today. And Susan is my cohort and on the research committee for the Healing Humanity. And Aimee is a fantastic example of how you heal and you also can age beautifully. And so I've invited Aimee on here. I know I've had a lot of guests, and I'm really excited about having someone who's a little bit older. You are 69, is that correct?
Yes, I'll be 70 in July.
It's okay. So she is 69 years young and has been so health conscious basically your whole life. So I wanted to just give you the platform here, and if you can kind of go back in time and share what has happened with your health, some things that went wrong, what your response has been over the years, and what led you to the carnivore diet.
Okay, well, it is a long story because when you're 69 years old, you've lived a long time.
Correct.
um, so I was, as my sister called me, she said I was sickly. I was a sickly child. I was constipated. I had crossed eyes and needed glasses. I had 3 eye operations. I had chronic headaches. Then I had acne, and I
Okay.
took antibiotics for acne when I was 15 for a whole year. And then when I was 16, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I kind of blame the antibiotics and all the medical treatments I had when I was younger
Messing
on
up your immune system there.
yeah,
Hey,
the
Aimee, I'm getting a lot of static. Is there a way you can maybe try turning your volume down and see if we can get rid of the static?
well, you know me,
You may or may not. That's okay. You know what?
I'm very tech savvy.
That's all right. I don't mind stopping and troubleshooting. And if we can get rid of the static, that'd be awesome. And if not, we'll just
Is this any better?
not on my end. What about you, Susan?
Well, I don't want it to be bad. You know, I wonder if we should have stayed on my phone.
Do you want to go back to your phone?
Let me see. Okay, turn it down for a little bit. Is that better?
No, no. It's picking. There's a lot of static.
And still?
Yeah. Do you want to try going back to your phone?
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and just leave the studio here, and then Susan and I will chat, and then you can come back on your phone, and we'll pick up where we left off. And we'll all right. Okay, Susan. Okay, so Susan, I don't know that anybody knows you. So
Well, that's one thing about, like Aimee said, about being 69 years old and not very tech savvy and just working along and trying to do the best you can. And
oh yeah.
during the live stream back in October, I believe, I couldn't get on, and I'd try and I say, what in the world is wrong? But we finally worked it out, and now I know that I can get on live stream with
Yeah.
my phone or my iPad.
Yeah.
But,
It's not super intuitive at first.
no, it's not. You just have to dive in and think.
That's right. That's right. Well, you know what? And that's how everybody knows that this is truly live, right?
Mhm.
We're not nothing staged. It's just us as we are. And
That's right.
yeah.
And I
Awesome.
think in
Good.
some that's wonderful, because people see us. We're not trying to stage anything or misrepresent or make it a magic pill or anything like that.
That's right. Yeah. It's just a bunch of real people trying to share
Right.
stories. So
I know, as far as Aimee goes, I have really looked back into some of her videos, and
I'll
even
let
when
her. I'll,
she
I'll I'll
was
let her finish troubleshooting.
she was a raw vegan,
Yeah.
was very famous, and had a store with her
Right.
raw foods, and even for the animals, I believe. And I saw her while she had still had her dentist with
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And even I saw a video where Dr. Sean Baker had interviewed her, and they had actually met, and he had eaten supper or dinner with them in
Yeah.
California.
Wow. So she has been around the block a few
Mhm.
times. That's awesome. That's
Um,
awesome. So how
I
did
think, oh, go ahead.
how did you get to know like get involved with the Carrie? Oh,
Oh, I watched it. I had started my carnivore diet last year in February,
okay.
and in January the doctor had told me, said, you need to be on statin, and I cried, and I started the statin, and started researching how to lower my um, triglycerides and cholesterol naturally.
Okay.
And when I did, ended up finding, I'm a retired nurse, so I already
Yep.
kind of
Me
knew
too. We were both retired nurses here.
I was I was very angry
Oh
because
yeah.
I had to take a bunch of medicines, and I was already on a blood pressure medication. And
Yeah.
so through about a month, I eliminated my blood pressure medications, and or one medication, and then I uh, stopped taking my um, Crestor because it was making me hurt worse.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
hear
was
that so many
already
times.
inflamed and did not even understand that that inflammation was what was causing me to have a lot of back pain and leg
Yeah.
pain. Couldn't move, crotchety like a old person. I mean, really, really.
Yeah, so many people are on
So
statins, and we got Aimee back, so that's good. Aimee, you wanna test out
good.
your sound?
Sure. How do I sound?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, we're gonna pick up with your story. Thank you
There
so
you
much for just making that adjustment, and I think it's gonna end up giving a better quality, to the live stream without the
I
crack.
just, well, I hope my phone lasts. That's
Okay. Do you need to plug it in?
well, I can't. If I plug it in, it won't stand up straight. I could
Okay, well,
plug it in,
let's
but
go.
it would be crooked.
All right, well, then let's
Um,
go.
Figure that out. I'll try.
I wanna Yeah, I definitely wanna give you the opportunity to share your story because I know you've been around the block a few times and you have a
All right.
lot to say.
So how does it look?
You look
Looks
good.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it looks good.
I'll hold it. I'll hold the phone. It's plugged
That's what
in,
I'm doing,
so
Aimee. So we're making it
I'm good.
work.
I'm good. Okay. So, diagnosis, type 1 diabetes. Back then, so it was 1971. Back then,
Wow.
type 1 diabetics only took one shot a day. They hadn't figured out a whole lot of stuff. It was early on. We only had urine tests, so I never knew what my blood sugars were. Um, I had 3 kids. They were all pretty healthy. Um, let's see. When I was right out of college, I started getting interested into health, and I
Okay.
became a vegetarian.
Okay.
So for the next 20 years, I ate, um, well, we ate occasional chicken when I got pregnant. So,
Okay.
um, but usually it was just the protein was just eggs and cheese. Luckily, I wasn't vegan by then. So my kids were pretty healthy, um, but the diabetes was starting to take a toll, but I actually didn't understand that. I had in my early 40s, so that by that time I had 3 kids, and I was I was getting stiff. I had two
Okay.
frozen shoulders. I had frozen hips. My joints hurt. I was slow to move. It took me like a solid minute to get up out of a chair. It took me a solid minute to get down on the floor to be with my kids, even if I could.
Mm.
Um, I went to medical libraries to try to figure out what was wrong with me.
Wow.
Um, Skeletal issues like frozen shoulder were not on the complications list of type 1 diabetes. It
Okay.
was just the eyes and the feet and other things that are well known, but nobody realized at that time that it could affect the skeletal system.
Okay.
And I have a theory about that because I think I was moderately high. I wasn't high enough for my eyes to go blind or to
Okay.
get heart disease or anything else. It was just all in my skeletal
Yeah.
system.
And at this point, you had not been able to monitor your blood sugar, correct? So you didn't
Well,
know.
no, all I did was take my insulin and try not to eat a lot,
Yeah.
because we had urine tests. And I didn't have a way to take a fast acting insulin. And I was only taking one shot a day still.
Okay.
So, anyway, I had those complications. The reason I found out that they were actual diabetic complications is a friend of mine who was also a type 1, who also had frozen shoulder, sent me an article in the mail written by Dr. Bernstein of the diabetes solution, the low carb famous
Mhm.
doctor. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but
Yes, I have.
an article, and he explained how frozen shoulder was a diabetic complication. And if you wanted his system, you could mail off for some cassette tapes. So I mailed off for these cassette tapes and listened to them as soon as they came in the mail. And it was explaining low carb and intense insulin and how to take 5 shots a day to include your food and your morning and evening, what's called a basal. It's like a
Right.
background insulin.
Right.
So the very next day, I went very low carb and started taking 5 shots a day. And I don't know how, but I was able to change my insulin, go to the drugstore and just buy it over the counter. I didn't even need a prescription.
Yeah.
This was 27 years ago. It was 1996.
Okay.
And
Thank-
within a couple of months, I got completely better.
Okay. Wow.
All my skeletal
Yay.
issues cleared up right away.
Okay. So you went
I
from
did have to go to
being a
go ahead.
vegetarian to then a low carb diet. So did you start eating the animal protein at that point?
I did, except I would only, my color is funny, isn't it? It's called the sunlight in my kitchen. I started eating white meat only. I
Okay.
would eat, because I was, and in my heart, I was still a vegetarian. So I would eat chicken and turkey and tuna. That's what I added to my diet. And I took out all breads and all grains.
Okay.
Basically, I had been like a hippie vegetarian, lots of grains, lots of breads, lots of beans, tofu. So, yeah, I started eating the low carb, and by that time, blood monitors had come out. So I was testing my blood sugar and was on 2 different kinds of insulin then. And so I could correct a low or correct a high blood
Right.
sugar with insulin. So within just a couple of months, I got so much better and all my pain went away. So I did that
Excellent.
for seven years. But I was disappointed that I couldn't figure out how to heal the
Okay.
type 1 diabetes. because when I was first out of school, I started reading health books years ago, and thought that everything could be healed. If people could figure out what diet they could get on to heal cancer or some other disease, why couldn't I heal type 1 diabetes? So I was just determined to figure out how to heal it. So I just kept looking at different diets. I took a lot of different herbs. I just, immersed myself in the nutrition field and read everything I could read on different diets. And I heard about this raw food family. Their son had been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and the mother put him on a raw food vegan diet, and he never had to go on insulin.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to try raw foods. So the next 7 years, I did the raw vegan diet.
Okay.
I did a lot of fasting. I did a lot of different therapies, different herbs, uh, different forms of the raw vegan diet. I always did it low carb, and I always never ate fruit because Dr. Bernstein said, no fruit. So I always did it low carb, even though I was eating all raw vegan. And nuts were mostly my protein.
Okay.
After 7 years of that, even though the first 5 years I was pretty healthy, but after 7 years of that, I became my joints started suffering again, and it was very
Okay.
difficult to control my blood sugars on the raw vegan diet because you eat these giant bowls of salad,
Right.
and it was just
So
hard to
you
predict
had
what your blood sugar was going to do.
so you had kind of very different results from that young man that you had read about. And
Yeah. Yes.
do you have a
And
theory as to why?
yes, I do. He even says now, after he's all grown up, he says maybe I really only had type 2 diabetes.
Well, that was the first question that came into my mind. Is that
They don't know for sure, but he might have really had type 2 because they were a Russian family. They had just moved from Russia, and had just immersed themselves into the American diet.
oh yeah.
So he may have only really had type 2 diabetes, which is very easy. Well,
Yeah.
it depends on the severity of it, but it can be very easy to heal.
Right. And that was
Um,
my first thought was, this sounds like a misdiagnosis because I know nowadays there's kids that end up with the type 2 diabetes. It used to be classified
I
technically as
can't
like
hear you.
adult onset diabetes. And so I can imagine that if a child back
Right.
then
Right.
was diabetic, they'd automatically jump to the conclusion it was type 1. Hopefully
Right.
not, but that may have
Right.
been what happened.
No, it
So,
might have been what happened. And also, sometimes a quick change in diet when you're first
Right.
diagnosed can stop the beta cells from dying.
that makes sense. Yeah, so early on that
So
yeah,
if you do it
might have
right
been early
away,
for him.
if you have a big change in your diet right away, sometimes it does prevent you from becoming full-blown type 1.
Yeah.
So we'll never know which thing it really was. But
Right.
those are my suspicions, yes. Um, so let's see. That was 7 years of raw vegan. My joints started hurting really badly. And all my raw vegan friends, a lot of them were also changing because we had all started to develop other issues with
Interesting.
pain in our
Yeah.
skeletal system. My husband's teeth got really bad. So we were all looking at ways we could improve our diets. And that's when we started studying the keto diet. And
Okay.
we decided that if we were going to do keto and we were going to eat meat, that we were only going to eat meat and vegetables from local farms. And I live in Maine, so it's really easy to do that. You can buy all your food from local farms.
That's good.
Easy. So that's what we did. We went keto, and I studied it, and I studied how a type 1 diabetic would do the keto. And, I was doing very, very low carb and only eating about 20 grams of carbs every day,
Wow. Good.
with meat and eggs. So that's how I did keto. And by the
Okay.
time, and I was, I really wanted to heal, and I'm still thinking I can heal, but, I'm still hoping to find out something else. Who knows?
Yeah, still
Um,
searching for that answer.
yeah, I'm still searching. So my husband and I he was a famous artist, and we went on, for about 5 months out of every year. We traveled to do workshops that he would teach. And we were in the car with nothing else to do. So we started listening to YouTube. And of course, we started listening to keto stuff on YouTube.
Okay.
And then the Sean Baker interview on Joe Rogan came up. And that led us to the Michaela Peterson interview on Joe Rogan. And
Okay.
then the Sean Baker interview on Joe Rogan. Because back then it was November of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
There was only 3 videos about carnivore. Those 3,
Wow.
plus one that was negative, and that was
Okay.
it. So my
How
husband
things
said,
have
"I'm going to
changed.
start."
Wow.
What's that?
How things have changed in such a short period of
Oh,
time.
I know. It's only been a little over 5 years, but
That's incredible.
yeah. So my husband says I'm starting tomorrow, and I'm like, well, I'm type 1 diabetic. This might really cause me to have some issues, and
Right.
I don't know. I'm not going to start till we get home. So he started in October, and I started the day we got home, November 12th,
Okay.
2018.
Okay.
Um, Now, during the raw vegan times, I was able to lower my insulin because of all the fasting. I never have taken a tremendous amount of insulin. I was only started with 32 units. That's not much compared to what other people take. And I think it's
Right.
just because I've always been active and I've always been skinny. Um, During the first low carb time that I did it, when I found Dr. Bernstein, I was able to take only 22 units of insulin.
Oh, wow.
So then when I started carnivore, well, the raw vegan, I could get it down to about 17 units on raw vegan. And even if I did it after a juice fast, I wouldn't need insulin the very first day after a fast, but then I would right away. So the raw vegan was not going to heal me. Then we did keto, and that's not going to heal me either. It's more of a maintenance. It's a very good diet, and
Yeah.
it got me really healthy, but it wasn't going to heal me. So when we found out about carnivore, we both just jumped in. My husband didn't really have any reason to do it. He didn't have anything wrong with him. He just thought it sounded good, and he liked Sean Baker,
Okay.
and he just liked
Mm-hmm.
the idea of it. What's
Yeah,
that?
it's nice to have a doctor, like a actual doctor promoting a diet versus, you know, just somebody off the cuff who happened to have
Yeah,
some good results. Of course, now
right.
we've got thousands of people who've had good results, so
Mm-hmm.
that's
Exactly.
different. But back then, yeah, it's like there's so few people. It was good that it was a doctor.
Right, right. And it's interesting because the I don't have this huge healing journey. I mean, I wasn't terribly unhealthy except for the type 1 diabetes, but I wasn't in trouble.
Yeah,
I was
and the
doing
body
pretty
ache.
well. So through carnivore, I have lowered my insulin even more, and right now I'm down to about 12 units of insulin, and I
Okay,
do I do really well. Um, the only thing I can think of that actually went away was the floaters in my eyes disappeared.
that's really great.
And
That's
at
all.
69 years old, I have no aches and pains, and I feel great, and I'm happy to get up in the morning. And even though my husband died, and
Yeah.
he was carnivore. This is kind of weird to talk about, and I don't usually talk about it, but he was carnivore. Although he drank wine every night and would eat food if he was served at it when he was at somebody else's house. So he wasn't
Yeah.
as strict as I was. I mean,
Yeah.
I was trying to heal, a big deal. So
Right.
he would, whatever you want to call it, cheat or just, go off plan or whatever, just, not with junk. But then he was diagnosed with colon cancer.
Oh, interesting.
And he decided he wasn't going to do chemo. He was only going to do natural treatments. And we did all kinds of natural treatments for him, just a lot. He went to a naturopath, um, did hyperbaric chambers, sauna, vitamin C drips, all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
I think
And
that's some of I think that's some of the things that Jeff DeProsperous is doing, and it's
yes,
been very
it is.
interesting. But of course, he did maintain going for his chemotherapy and added in the fasting, and so he's got a metabolic, uh,
Well,
profile where he's
right.
working that.
I follow just to prosperous very
Yeah.
closely, just because I'm so interested. What happened with my husband is his tumor was so big that he couldn't
Yeah.
really get nourishment,
Yeah.
and so he lost a tremendous amount of weight, and he got so thin. And the doctors convinced him that now this was 2021. It was a few years ago before some of this stuff about metabolism helping so much
Mm-hmm.
with cancer. And even though I had read 2 books about natural treatments in cancer even before he was diagnosed, for some weird reason I have this weird interest in health that I can't help myself.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Yeah.
read the next new book that comes out. So I had already read all this stuff about cancer. The doctors convinced him that it was genetic and that
Hmm.
a metabolic approach would not help him. And he actually believed them, which I was shocked at.
Hmm.
But with the weight loss, I mean, he lost down to 105 pounds.
Oh, wow.
He just couldn't recover. And then he had emergency um, surgery because his colon burst. And
Oh.
he never really recovered from that. And he was so desperate to gain weight that he started eating sweets.
So he's feeding
Pastries
the
from the coffee house.
so he was feeding the cancers.
So anyway, he died, and
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
I'm on my own now, and my life is very different. But I'm
Yeah.
doing my best, and people die. So
Yeah, no, I'm curious because my background is in, my most recent nursing background was in gastroenterology. Had he been having colonoscopies? No.
no, he
Okay.
had not been to a doctor in 30 years, 30 or 40 years. He just didn't like the idea of going to doctors. He didn't believe in medical tests. We never had insurance when we were younger. We only got insurance when we got old enough for Medicare.
Okay. Okay.
So,
yeah, so I
no.
mean that's why, even though I'm not like a massive fan of getting a colonoscopy, I do understand, as a GI nurse, the importance of getting rid of getting those polyps removed.
Right.
Not every polyp is going to become cancerous, but it's it's like it's like skin cancer, right? If you can get the mole
Yeah.
removed, you can prevent the skin cancer. With colon cancer, if you can get the polyps removed, you can prevent. It's one of the rare cases where you can actually prevent the cancer by removing the polyps. And I know they take, from the point of getting like a tubular adenoma, which is the type that can become cancer, to it actually becoming cancer, it could take about 15 years.
Mm.
for it to grow to that point. So there's time. So if you haven't gotten your colonoscopy and you're over 50 or whatever the age is nowadays, I think it's maybe 45 now since I retired, but um, yeah, at least get it and see if you've got any polyps.
Well, I'm on a list to get one. I got one ordered, but they haven't called me back to schedule it. So I
Yeah.
don't know. That's
Yeah,
pretty.
I'm overdue.
Both of my sons have had it.
I'm overdue, and of course, here as a GI nurse, I'm 5 years overdue. I'm supposed to have it at 50.
Well, it's interesting that you would mention that about skin cancer because I had a spot on my eyebrow that was an open wound. Um, I mean, it was not caused by anything except that it was pre-cancer. Except I never went to a doctor for it. I wouldn't go because I
Okay.
didn't want my face cut on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I put the Pharaoh skin cream on it, which is lard and tallow, and
Okay.
it's completely gone. It's not open anymore. It's all dry.
Wow. Well, when it comes to cancer in the carnivore
Okay.
diet, I mean, we know that cancer and likes the standard American diet. It kind of feeds the cancer. The carnivore diet deprives those cancer cells of the nutrients that they want to thrive. So it sounds like you were doing, you had the right diet, and then that cream. So the Farrow, Farrow
Yeah.
is the brand.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's called, and
awesome.
I put Pharaoh skin food is what it was called. And
Farrow
now,
skin
I mean,
food. Okay, I'm gonna write that
I
down.
have to say, it's a little expensive, and I couldn't really afford to buy it again. So I made my own cream with tallow and lard, and I use that on my face.
Okay.
And I use it to take my makeup off with, and then I put it on before I go to bed every night.
Okay, interesting. I
But
know my father had skin cancer removed from his face, and so of course that's something that's on my radar for sure. But yeah, prevention, I mean, if there is a way of preventing cancer, that's obviously the optimal. But yeah, so we have a comment here. My brother had polyps in his sinus cavities. He had stage 4 cancer and survived. I'm
oh
really
wow,
glad he survived. That's great. Wow. So, well, we're very sorry that you lost your husband. And, I know a lot of us who are looking at alternative ways to maintain our health and to be in good health. A lot of times we have distrust in the traditional medicine and medical community and don't want to go see doctors. And I completely understand. But there are things I believe we should still do. And, getting a colonoscopy is one of them. Just,
well, my husband was a big believer in meditation for healing.
yeah.
So we spent about 4 hours every day meditating after he was diagnosed,
Wow.
but it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
sometimes things like that work, and sometimes they don't. And when they don't, people die.
right. Exactly. Exactly. And hopefully there's more and
Anyway,
more oncologists that are going to be open to these mixed approaches to cancer. I don't see why why not just try everything, try
yeah.
whatever you can. Yeah. And oh wow. So I know that, kind of going back a little bit, you were not just, health conscious. Tell us a little bit about your business that you started, because you were making products, correct?
Y'all found Amy's Living Magic?
Yes,
Yes,
I
I
sure
had a raw
did.
food business. I had a raw food business in my house. I made all kind of amazing food. I had 18 dehydrators going in my kitchen and dining
18.
room. I
Wow.
made onion bread and onion crisps and 5 different kinds of dehydrated crackers. And I had 19 different flavors of stevia sweetened chocolate. And
Wow.
a lot of products went out and a lot of products came in, and we just couldn't make enough money. I did it for about 5 years, um, but just couldn't really figure out. And it was before Instagram and before Facebook.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the time that we were doing the business, we were starting to lose our excitement about the raw vegan diet because of our health.
Quite a
So
testament there.
it was kind of hard to try to sell the products when we didn't really even believe it anymore. So at first I stopped making the labor intensive things like the crackers and granola and onion bread, and we concentrated on just the chocolate that we still kind of believed in. And so the last 6 months of the business, we sold and made all the chocolate, and we did pretty well, but we just never could get it to be like our main focus. And so we had to close the business.
Yeah, I wonder how many people who are very prominent in the vegan community just don't want to tell about their aches and pains. What do you think? Do you think that that's kind of behind the scenes
I
happening?
think that, yeah, I think that's totally true. And their rotting teeth. People will have their teeth rotting out of their heads and still
Wow.
want to be vegan because you have such a belief in it. You
Right.
know, you've invested so much of your belief system
Right.
in this ideology, but
Right.
and like I was kind of a famous influencer back then
You
in the raw
were.
vegan community. Um, my husband and I just finished a book all about raw vegan diet. You know,
Wow.
it was recipes and our stories, and we thought, you know, we took our stove and put it in the basement. We were like really into, and then just had to have the realization. It was January 1st, and my daughter, who had been a raw vegan, she stopped. My husband had stopped. All my support system, who had been raw vegan with us, stopped. And January 1st, my daughter says, "Mom, why don't you just try it? And if you don't like it, you can go back and be a raw vegan."
Okay.
So we were getting this amazing raw butter from a local farm. And we knew all these farmers that we had been buying vegetables from. So we started buying meat, and it was amazing. And the first time I put a piece of red meat in my mouth, I don't remember. I wish I could remember what it was, but it was some kind of beef.
Okay.
And it was from a local farm. And when I tasted it, I felt like the angels sang.
Yeah.
It was like a nourishment that I had never felt before.
Wow.
It was amazing. And so I was never going to go back.
So your
And it was,
body told you, this is what I've been wanting.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
But it took me 8 years you know, being really into keto before I was willing to give up vegetables. I had
Right.
actually, I think this is kind of interesting. When we were studying keto at the very first, it was 2010. And I was looking all around, and the internet was just starting. We didn't have Facebook yet, but there were forums. And I found this forum called Zeroing on Health. And it was a zero carb forum
Oh, wow.
with all the old timers on it. So
Oh, wow.
Charles Washington and the Andersons. Have you ever heard of Joe and Charlene Anderson?
I have not.
They've been carnivore for about
I'm going to write them down.
25 years. They don't do interviews, although Joe is on Instagram. But
Oh, okay.
they used to be very active because they went carnivore because Charlene had been really sick with Lyme disease and other stuff. And so they are basically on the ribeye diet, and they've raised
Okay.
their kids,
Good.
and they all eat ribeyes.
Wow. Yeah, that's great.
So
I mean,
Kelly Hogan was in that group.
Yep.
Lisa Wiedemann,
yeah.
Amber O'Hearn, all of them. And I read all about them, and I read their stories. But it just wasn't enough to convince me that eating only meat was the right thing to do. So
Okay.
we
At the
did.
time.
we
Yeah.
did keto for 8 years, and then when we heard the videos and were listening to
Good.
um, Sean Baker and Joe Rogan. I mean, well, yeah, and
Michaela.
Michaela and
Yeah.
her father. His name is not. Oh,
Yeah.
Jordan
Jordan.
Peterson. When we heard those stories, it was like, oh yeah, maybe those people were right.
Yeah, it's interesting
Huh.
because the timing is different for each of us, and you just also have to have your right motivator in place to make you
Right.
want to take that step. And it's just we all have our own individual journeys. So I know in looking at your channel, you are very focused, and I'm going to show your channel in a moment. But you're very focused on really wanting to reach out to people who are older
Right.
and give them hope that they can improve their health through carnivore. What made you, was that the motivation for starting your YouTube channel, or what led you to start a YouTube channel?
I think what led me to start the YouTube channel, I think this is kind of a funny story. So I have these friends. I have friends that I've known for a really long time in the town where I used to live with my husband. And there was this guy, we were thinking about, being girlfriend and boyfriend, but that it didn't work out. But he was
Okay.
like, I'm too old for a girlfriend. He's 77 and I'm almost 70. And I don't think we really match up that well anyway, but that was his thing. He didn't think he thought he was too old for a girlfriend, and he had some health issues,
Okay.
and it really scared him. He had a TIA.
Okay.
And I'm just thinking about my future, and I'm thinking about who could I help, because I really think carnivore helps you age well.
Yeah.
And that is basically why I started the YouTube channel. It was just that I think that there's so many people who have, and he wanted to listen to everything his doctor told him. He
Yeah.
didn't want to look out of that realm of
Uh,
possibility. He would only do it if his doctor told him to do it.
Okay.
And I was just inspired by so many stories about people's health and the thought of growing as well as I can into my old age. I mean, some people already think I'm old. I don't feel old,
mm,
Well, I've
you
watched
know.
your video, you doing push-ups and all sorts of
right.
exercises, and
Yeah.
you got you got this young woman's lean body and
Yeah.
strong, and I can't do those exercises you do.
Well, I've just always wanted to be active. I've always wanted to age. So when my husband was alive, I was his model, and he painted these gorgeous romantic figure
Oh,
paintings of
how
me. And
nice.
and a lot of times he would paint me nude.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I'm 64 years old, still posing nude for him. So
Wow.
that's like my one of my purposes in life was to stay in shape so that I could still be painted. Most of the time I had a beautiful white dress on and I was standing out by the
Yeah.
seashore. But I also occasionally did a nude painting and I had to look good.
We
So
yeah, I mean,
I've always exercised. I would not let myself gain weight. I would do anything to stay in shape so that I could look pretty in a painting, basically.
so he wasn't painting you. He wasn't taking liberties and photoshopping his paintings. He was painting you
No.
as you were.
Oh yeah, he was
Yeah.
painting me for
True
life.
artist.
He
Yes.
wasn't making up anything.
Yeah.
I did tell him, I said, you can't paint my wrinkles. So a lot of times the figures were from the back or they just
Okay.
weren't close up. But I'm like, I pride myself on I have no double chin or anything. So
Right.
I'm like, I've never had weight on my body.
Yeah.
So it,
See, that was
it
one
makes a
thing,
huge
Amy.
difference.
That was one thing, Amy, when I saw those older pictures the videos that someone else had done of you and your husband at the time, and they were pictures of you in a bathing suit, and I just imagine and compare, like Carrie talked about Maggie and how well developed she was as having been working, and here she is 82, 83 years old, and having worked and been able to, she was even able to carry them, and just unbelievable. So I told him one time, I said, I want to be like that when I grow up. So
Well,
I,
I'm sure Maggie could run circles around me. I don't think
yeah, but
I'm not as strong as she is, that's for
that
sure.
may be true. However, you are active and you are invested in what you are doing and how you are at this time.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. So, yeah, you're a very good role model for people who are,
Absolutely.
older. Now, you've mentioned, you did a video about preventing dementia. And I know that I've heard you talk about how important brain health is as you age. Um, have you kind of dug in and done some research on that, or what are your thoughts regarding, the carnivore diet and brain health as you age?
well, I did do research for that video, and I'm just banking on the fact that a lot of people who know a lot about the brain that are in the carnivore movement, like, sorry, my dog is barking. The neighbors must be making noise. That's
Yeah.
okay. Um, like Dr. Anthony Chafee. He knows a
Mhm.
lot about the brain because he's a brain surgeon. And he believes that animal fat will keep your brain healthy. And
Right.
I believe that too.
I
I
do too.
can't sign an affidavit to say that that's true, but I believe it. And um, the evidence seems to be there. And I do know
Right.
there are people like Hal Kramer. Do you know him?
Mm-hmm.
Is
Hal
he is he the
Yeah,
one that runs the facility for older people and
Cramera.
has had,
right,
yeah, you wanna
right.
talk
He
a
has
little bit
assisted
for those who,
living centers.
yeah, for
And
those who don't know him, maybe you can share a little bit about him.
well, he owns, I believe it's in Arizona,
Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, Scottsdale or somewhere, or Phoenix area. He owns, I believe, six, maybe just four, living assisted living centers, and there's older people there that are, they start to have dementia, so their family puts them in a nursing home or assisted living home, and they can't really function for themselves. And he's putting them on carnivore diets, and they wake up,
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
their
incredible.
brain improves, and suddenly they know who they can care for themselves. They know who everybody is, and
Yeah.
they're healing.
Amazing.
So that's evidence,
Yeah,
when
and
people who are starting.
he actually has the scores, they have the assessments where they score the degree of their
Mm-hmm.
dementia, and he has actually done, before and after
Right,
scoring and has seen that their scores improve and their cognitive, obvious cognitive ability improves, which is incredible with the carnivore diet. So, yeah, I mean, and so it's if it can help people who already have dementia,
Mm-hmm.
it would be a fantastic way of preventing dementia to make sure and I mean, I was around for the low fat craze. You were probably, I'm 55, so you're older than I am. But the low fat craze happened and people just intuitively they probably thought, well, fat equals body fat, which it doesn't.
Yep.
Dietary fat doesn't, but that was the thought. And
right, right.
it's done so much damage over the years to our bodies, but also to our brains. And I'm hoping that there's less fear of fat, but time will tell. But there's nothing to worry about with fat. Fat is amazing. So I have a comment here. Said my first ribeye in years, I was kind of it was in kind of a high. So my neck strange, I don't know how to describe it, but that the pain in my neck was feeling kind of a euphoric feeling, a feeling of lightheadedness, interesting, and a lot less pain, almost gone on that first steak. Interesting. My husband and I,
That's amazing.
years ago, we went on this diet together, and it was, yeah, it was in the like probably the mid 90s, and it was a typical low fat, right? Low fat diet, hardly any fat. And I don't remember how long we stayed on it, but I know one time we were just like feeling miserable.
Yeah.
Going, oh my gosh. We went to, I think it was Burger King. It was either Burger King or Carl's Jr. down in California, and had a burger. And we both were like, oh my goodness, this is what my body has wanted. It was like the best, and we had the bread too. It wasn't just a carnivore thing, but just eating that burger, it was like everything our bodies had been lacking were satisfied with that one burger. And I know now, looking back, it was the beef and it was
Right,
the fat, you
right.
know, but incredible. Wow. So yeah, so you were so health conscious. So are you finding that actually I want to show your channel before while I'm thinking about it. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is Aimee's channel, Brisket Boomers. So, let's see, we got your
I
carnivore
have
story. You
done
have a
like
lot of videos.
12 different videos, I think, or
Yeah,
so.
so you did. So you
I'm
went on
just,
the lion diet. Oh, there's your carnivore and dementia video. Do you have any lives? Okay, so you got some lives here. But do you? So are you still on the lion diet?
no.
No.
No,
Okay.
I'm basically on, well, I was on beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, but for February, I'm into doing experiments. So
Okay.
February, I'm doing no butter, no decaf. So so I'm on beef, butter, bacon, and eggs without the butter.
Okay. Okay.
But I always think I did do the lion diet back in 2020
Okay.
for 3 months. Um, I wanted to try it out to see how my blood sugars would react.
Okay.
And it was amazing. And I was able to lower my insulin down to just 6 units of insulin. It really
Wow.
seemed like it was going to get me off of insulin. But in 3 months, I couldn't stand being away from bacon or eggs and decaf. I think that it was just like I just couldn't do it anymore. So
Okay.
I quit, and it didn't seem like it was really going to get me off of insulin. I don't know. I always in the back of my head, I'm thinking I need to do lion again. I need to do lion again. And
Well,
so
and
I
it may
did
be
it.
a
I
matter
did
of
it for one
time.
month. I did it for that 1 month recently, and I did not have the same results with the lower insulin in the
Oh,
one.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Have
And
you heard of ha,
basically, I'm addicted to bacon.
you're addicted to bacon? Yeah. I can't have bacon because it's high histamine. And, with my mast cell activation syndrome, I have to keep my food low histamine. But yeah, it's a sad thing because bacon is probably the most wonderful food in the world.
Well, it's interesting about diabetes. It's like because I can control it with insulin and my life is pretty steady, I don't have any kind of um, emergency situation with it.
Right.
That it's easy for me to just go, oh, I'll just eat beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. I'm okay. But if I
Yeah.
really wanted to heal, I would go back to lion. The thing is, I wanted to say to you about the histamine. I listened to that interview this morning because I wanted to find out more of your story. So
Oh,
I listened to that interview
the
when I
interview with
walked.
Adam?
Yes, when I walked to my book club this morning to town. I walk a lot. I walk like right now
Yeah.
I've got 5. I'll probably have 7 before the end of the miles before the end of the day. But anyway, I for several months or maybe a couple of years during my raw food thing, I had developed a sensitivity to histamines.
Mm.
The first time it happened was when we went to a smokehouse and I had barbecue brisket.
Yeah.
And what happened to me, my reaction to it was if I bent over to like tie my shoes, my head would fill up with fluid and feel really weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that happened every time I had smoked meats or meat that I cooked low and slow.
Okay.
And that would
Wow.
happen time after time after time for I think about 2 years. And then recently it just went away. I can cook meat slow and low. I don't usually go to smokehouses anymore because even though you can get them without the barbecue sauce, the rubs all have sugar in them.
Hmm.
So I don't usually go.
Right.
But I can cook things for hours or even overnight and I don't have a reaction to it. So my histamine issues healed.
That's good.
I don't really know why or how, but I had a friend who had mast cell. I don't remember which one she had because we're not no longer friends.
But it was one of the mast cell diseases.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. With people that have just histamine intolerance, it does tend to be temporary, you know. So I'm not surprised that it cleared up. And, of course, you've got everyone has their individual histamine bucket where, basically how much can you tolerate? And so some
right.
people have big buckets and other people have little tiny ones. And, you know, so you may have just kind of drained your bucket and so and now you're okay. There's a question for you. And how long were you vegan before going carnivore? If mentioned already, sorry I missed it. So I wanted to have you address that question.
So I was raw vegan for 7 years, but then I was keto with local food for 8 years, and then I became carnivore. So I did not have a hard transition into carnivore because at the end of keto, I was only doing meat, eggs, dairy, and fermented vegetables. So
Oh,
I didn't have any kind of reaction to going carnivore.
that's good. So Dr. Ben Lynch makes a histamine block supplement. Yeah, the DAO is the enzyme that will actually help with if you have histamine. And I have a histamine diet. It's called histamine digest. Um, that's a DAO uh, enzyme. And so, like, if I go out or if I don't have control over what I'm eating and I go out, and even if I go out, I still just eat steak. But if I can remember to bring it, I'll bring that and take that ahead of time. And it does help.
Well, sometimes when you go out, you don't know if they're really grilling the steak or if they're cooking it with vegetable oil.
Yeah.
Right. And I always
So
ask.
yeah, and I try to too, but I did go to a barbecue place at the main meetup because that's the place that they and all of the meat had sugar in the rub and it was all with vegetable oil. And so I asked for a burger because they had burgers, but they would not grill my burger. They cooked it on the
Oh,
grill with
wow.
vegetable oil.
Oh, wow.
Ugh.
I can say something about the Olive Garden, and I'm not a big fan typically of the Olive Garden, but um, in January, my mother-in-law was her birthday, and her favorite place to eat is the Olive Garden, so we went there. And my husband and I, we just ordered steaks a la carte, but they said that they're very, very good with people who have special diets, and they said that if you can't do seed oils, they said they will clean the grill, clean the
Wow.
utensils. They're serious about it. And then when the food is brought out, the manager comes with the waiter or waitress to just
Wow.
make sure, kind of
Yeah.
like Susan, you be aware, it's like the double check in nursing when you're
Yep.
giving insulin, right? You got to have another nurse there to double check and make sure you got the order and you're drawing it up the right amount and all that, right? So it was kind of the same thing. The manager would come out and make sure and confirm that the people were getting the food that was, with their diet. I was so impressed.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really awesome. And I have advised people when they're going out to use the allergy word because
Yeah,
Allergic.
usually restaurants will,
they take it seriously.
yeah, they'll cooperate with you if you use that word. I am
Yeah.
allergic to oils. And, seed oils, I don't know where that word came from, but nobody outside of the carnivore knows what a
They
seed oil
understand.
is. So I just say vegetable oil. Everybody knows what that is. And
Yeah.
the one good thing I have left over from the raw vegan diet was that because all those oils are cooked, we couldn't eat them. So I have not
Oh,
had
how
seed
about that?
oil. We changed everything to olive oil back then. So I haven't had a seed oil in 20 years.
Wow.
So, I mean, I think that that's partly why I'm so healthy.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the one good thing about a vegan diet is that you're not eating so much of the garbage out there.
Right. You're not eating processed food.
Right. Exactly. And I know a lot of people have said, well, that's probably why the carnivore diet works is because you just eliminate all this other stuff. I do believe that that's a component of it. If you go from a horrible, standard American diet and you're eating a bunch of processed food, then sure, of course, if you're going to just stop eating that, you're going to feel better. But then your story about eating your first red meat is completely
That's
blows
all.
that theory out of the water that that's all it is because
Right. Right. No, it's
yeah,
definitely more. I don't know what it is. I still don't know what it is about meat. I listen to interviews pretty much all day long because I live by myself. I walk 5 to 8 miles every day, and I got my earphones in and I'm listening to a carnivore podcast. And I just listen to the stories because I don't know why. I think because I want more confirmation every day
Right.
yeah,
about the choice I made. I don't know. I just love listening to stories about people's health. I think it's
I do
amazing.
too. I do too. Absolutely. And I think I think that people appreciate hearing from real people and what
Right.
their experience is. So we've got another comment here. I asked the cook, and what do you cook your steak? He said, on the grill. I said, no, what do you put on your grill to cook the steak? He said, a spray. I said,
Right.
no, please cook my steak in butter. Then I asked for butter on the side. That's how I found out that their butter is not real butter. It was
Right.
margarine. So make sure they have real butter. Yes,
Some
exactly.
right. Some restaurants. I mean, I've been through the butter thing. Some restaurants they don't even know that there's a difference
They don't.
between margarine and butter.
Mm.
I've had that issue where a waitress doesn't even know that margarine and butter are different.
Right.
Um, I've had some restaurants that do not have butter at all, but
Right.
most of the good restaurants in the kitchen, if they're going to make something that's really supposed to have butter, like hollandaise, they will have a big square giant thing of butter that says butter on the package. And
Yeah.
I've had servers, I said, you need to go look on the package and see
Right.
what it says. See the
Right.
word butter and I will eat it, or the little wrapped up foil things of butter.
Right. Right.
But I've been served what they think is butter many times when I can tell by the way it tastes it's not. So I've
Oh yeah. Yeah. My gut will tell me if it's not
Yeah.
butter. Yeah. I have
And
I
a
you
don't
don't
seem to have
want
a
to know that
reaction.
after
It's
the
so
fact.
weird. I don't
yeah.
have a reaction. I think I could probably eat margarine and vegetables and not have an immediate reaction.
Yeah.
I I don't know why. It's just probably because I've been on this health thing since I was 22 years old,
Mm.
and
Right.
that's a long time.
Yeah, yeah, and I know I tend to be more reactive than a lot of people because of my mast cell disease, but my gut, I mean, there's tons of histamine receptors in your gut, and my gut will tell me right away if it doesn't like something. Let's see. So she said, my daughter worked at Olive Garden. They do not use real butter on their breadsticks. They use margarine on their breadsticks. I always thought it was butter. Oh, good to know. Yeah, I didn't eat any of their breadsticks, but Yeah, that is definitely good to know. Another thing, so my daughter has a dairy allergy. It used to be just lactose intolerance, but it developed more into a dairy allergy where she'll like her tongue will tingle and she'll get hives. And so she was appreciative because at the Olive Garden you can go on their little iPad thing that they have, and it'll tell you all of their whole menu and what ingredients and like allergen type ingredients are in it. And so that's really good, but I don't remember so she didn't have I think she did have the breadsticks because it said dairy free, so that's a good indication that the breadsticks don't have real butter because,
Right.
you
Right.
know
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because they're listed as dairy free. Because she was like, "Oh, good, I can eat the breadsticks, they're dairy free," and it's funny that you mentioned it was margarine because at the time, I didn't even think about, well, then what is it that they put on it?
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, they must yeah, wow, interesting. So she said, "I ate their breadsticks a long time ago before I was" Oh, yeah, are you kidding? Me too. I could eat 2 baskets of their breadsticks before, when I was in my addicted stage. So, wow, interesting. So what is your hope for the future for, what you're trying to do out there for the older carnivore community?
Well, I would like to do interviews, but I haven't learned how to do interviews on YouTube. So I'm probably going to have to get this StreamYard and figure
StreamYard.
out if I
Yeah.
can educate myself. But I'm
I can
an
help
open to
you.
it. I would
Yes.
love some help because I would
I
like to
can
do
help you.
interviews with older carnivores. That's what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah.
I think that would be great. Yeah, I can help you learn how to use StreamYard and get it set up for your channel. And absolutely, we can message afterwards and stuff, and we can even do. And I've done this with Susan. You can attest.
Yeah.
We've done Facebook Messenger, like a video chat, when she needs help with something techie.
Hmm.
Okay, I can do that. I can do FaceTime or anything you
Yeah,
FaceTime or Facebook Messenger is
yeah.
Right.
definitely
I can
I'm
I
best
can
for.
Really
do.
good.
Yeah, I can do either of those. Susan, did you have any specific questions for Aimee? I know we've gone over a little bit. Do you have any specific questions for Aimee while I've got you here?
Well, I want to at least summarize. I think this lends a lot of credibility that we have someone that hasn't just started in the last year or 5 years or even 10 years, that this and that the fact that you hoped and you felt like that it would help you to heal. And that was a big ask, I believe. And then you pull it together and transcend all of the different techniques that you went through to try to heal. And then, especially with the testimony of saying, when I ate that first piece of meat, I felt like angels were singing.
I love that.
And I tell you, it does, and you just learn more about your body and how it responds. And there's a big thing with the mind brain connection with the neuroplasticity, with the doctors looking at that, and the Dr. Ead's book, Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind. And you gain so much more of a broad perspective. And then looking at your body, you're not telling it to shut up anymore by taking this medicine or that medicine, or this injection or that injection, and that you tell it like a good mama would tell her child, calm down, it's going to be all right, we're going to work it out. And you get that experience of that you can walk through it, you can have your self control, you will be alerted that this is what your body needs. And if you get into trouble, you can tell you're not in a quagmire. It's just a little something that you might have even accidentally um, ingested. And you can fix that. You can say, now calm down and go get that filet mignon. That's what I did. And eat that in one day. The next day or two, you know that you will have the healing that you need, depending on what your body needs. And I love that, because that gives everything so much more credence, because you've been at all of them.
Yeah, and it's true that you can recover from things very quickly by just eating meat.
Mm-hmm.
I hear so many times about people's inflammation going away. Like, a lot of times that's the first thing they'll say, "Oh, within a few days, I noticed a dramatic decrease in inflammation."
Mm-hmm.
And, which is going to impact your brain because you don't want inflammation in your brain. If your whole body's inflamed, your brain's a lot of inflamed. A lot of people experience just this lifting of their brain fog
Mm-hmm.
and their thoughts and their, mental clarity
Right.
sets in. So, yeah, that's good. Let me see here. We got a comment. There's an app to assist you restaurants that use seed oils and which ones do not. It's called Seed Oil Scout. Oh, interesting.
Wow, that's cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. You are such a wealth of information. They can report the restaurants as well. They rate restaurants and how flexible they are in accommodating if you ask to cook in butter or any animal fat. Oh, interesting. That's good to know. So everybody take note. Seed Oil Scout
Seed Oil Scout.
is an app.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I've had actually pretty decent experiences with restaurants, at least where I live. Of course, I live in Washington State, so I'm on the West Coast, and we tend to be a little more alternative in our,
Oh yeah.
approach to health anyways. But I feel like there's so many places that when I do go out, where they know what seed oils are. And it may be a little less known in some other parts of the country, but at least in where I live, it's pretty well known. So I think the word is starting to get out there that seed oils are bad. Yeah. So, okay, very good. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much, Aimee. And I just wanted to give you
Yes.
one opportunity. Like, if there's someone who's older, let's just say, technically a senior citizen,
That's a
and
son again.
yeah, and who's watching and really curious and it's like, oh, I wonder if I should try this carnivore diet and see if it helps all my ailments. What advice would you give them?
Well, I would say you're in charge. Try it for 30 days and see if you feel better. And
Yeah.
listen to Carnivore podcast to be inspired.
Right.
And just try it. And beef butter. I think the beef butter, bacon, and eggs is awesome. So easy. And
just do it.
just do it until you feel better. Now, it was interesting because I was earlier yesterday. I was on a type 1 diabetic podcast. Sorry,
Oh,
my
okay.
camera. And I got question, and we were talking about carnivore, and I got the same question, but I got it if there was a type 1 diabetic who wanted to start carnivore, what would you tell them? And for a type 1 diabetic, in case you're listening to this podcast, not because I'm old, but because I'm type 1 diabetic, you need to be familiar with how to lower your medication, how to lower your insulin.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, so if you want to start carnivore, learn how to lower your medication first, because you're going to need a lot less insulin if you're going to do carnivore.
Right.
That's the first thing. But
Right.
you are in charge of your body. And if you want to experiment by eating meat, eggs, and cheese for 30 days, you can. And do it. That's the only way. You can't ask enough questions. That's the only way you're going to find out, because every person is different. And you have to find out if it's going to work for you. And,
Absolutely. And from a perspective of nursing perspective too, I know a lot of people who are diabetic they're not like constantly checking their blood sugar. Hopefully you're checking it before you eat, but you may need to check it a little more frequently if you're making that transition.
Right.
And be very aware of the symptoms of hypoglycemia. your individual symptoms, because not everybody has the exact same symptoms, but be
Yeah.
aware of, the symptoms of hypoglycemia and have a plan in place for if you become hypoglycemic, because you definitely want to do it safely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anytime there's a change in diet when you're dealing with a diabetic, you need to factor, check your blood sugar more regularly, be aware of what to look for and have a plan. So awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Aimee. And we have a thank you from Jude. Excellent interview. Excellent. Good. Well, I'm so glad to meet you. And I absolutely definitely will be very available to help you if you need help with the tech
All
issues.
right. That'd be
With I would
awesome.
love, I'd love to be able to assist you in getting the word out to this senior, community, that this is
Uh,
an unbelievably healthy diet for
I
them.
think there are a lot of people my age and older who are going carnivore. There's tons of us because it's like a lot of people's last resort.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
they're older and there's so many of us. So that's what I'm pretty serious. That's what I want to do. I want to help older
Good.
people
Yeah.
take charge of their health.
And all these things that people have just kind of rolled over and accepted as normal signs of aging are, so much of it is diet, and you can actually reverse it. You don't have to have aches and pains. You don't have to wake up in the morning and feel like you can't move because you're so stiff. You don't have to walk into the room and forget why you went there. You don't have to leave your keys in the refrigerator, I mean,
And
there's
you can keep being active and
yes,
and you can be around to take care of yourself. You're not going to need help as you
Right.
age. That's a big deal,
oh yeah, your independence is
right?
so important, and you don't want to have your, and avoiding being a fall risk. That's the thing. A
Right.
lot of times,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, so many people, their kids end up putting them into a facility or an assisted living facility or something like that because of the fact that they keep falling. And
Yep.
so, it's really
Yep.
important.
Yep.
You know,
That is my why. I want to
yeah,
be independent and I don't want my kids to have to take care of me and I don't want them to have to worry that I'm going to die like their dad did.
yeah,
So that,
absolutely.
that is
So,
my why.
Jill says, "Thank you, ladies. I'm still trying to get myself on a carnivore diet again, but I'm in a terrible rut. But Lent is just around the corner, and I can always succeed when I do it for him."
That's like
Amen.
Wednesday. That starts
Yes, and
Wednesday.
Lent is so much more sacrificial when you're a carnivore. Yeah, more penance as a carnivore. So yeah, I mean, this is a good opportunity. It's a good reason and excuse to get back on and being a carnivore. And I mean, I Jill's been on my channel for a long time, since like almost after I started, and I know that it's been an on again, off again struggle. And so stay connected, and keep jumping
Yeah.
in on the live streams, jumping on the chats, and like Aimee said, watch the
Oh, you
people's
know what?
stories.
Are you hanging up right now? I wanted to mention something
No,
really
go ahead.
quick.
I mean, now
Can I
it's
mention something really quick?
absolutely, you've got the floor. It's all you.
I I forgot to mention that I do group coaching with type 1 and type 2 diabetics. And I do
Excellent.
individual coaching too. But right now, the group coaching seems to be taking off and people are really enjoying it. So it's
That
a
is
It's a
awesome.
monthly thing. So at the
Okay.
beginning of every month, I start with a new group, and
So how, if they want to participate in that, how would they reach out to you in order to connect with one of those groups?
they would either direct message me on Instagram. I'm very, very active on Instagram and on Facebook Messenger. Either one of those,
Okay.
and this is Aimee Fields Perrin. So
Okay.
you just
I'm going to
put
just put that on here. Instagram is AIMEE, and then Fields, list like a
yeah
field,
Fields
and
F
then
F
PE.
I E L D S
And Aimee
and
Fields
Perrin.
Perrin. There we go. I put it in the comment. I made a comment in the live chat, and this will show up. The live chat comments will end up showing up permanently. I'm not sure. It takes me to take a day or so in order for it to show up, but it'll show up in the. But yeah,
Right.
excellent. So people
So if you
can
just
people can connect with you.
if they just get in touch with me on Instagram or Facebook or even through my YouTube channel, I'll answer them and we can connect and then set you up for the next month.
Excellent. And now are your groups for any age, or is
Any
it more
age,
focused on
yep.
seniors?
It's for any age and any type of diabetes. Yep. And
Okay.
you get texting with me, and the whole group gets to text all month. So that's been really helpful to people, and people really enjoy that. So, and then we meet once a week on a Zoom call.
Excellent.
Wow.
Very good. I think it's amazing that you're doing that, and so many people would consider someone who's almost 70 to be retired, but it's awesome that you're like, "Retired what?"
No.
You
Well,
have
I
a
forgot to
mission.
say, I am an artist and I do paint a lot. And so that, but I don't make a lot of money at it right now. I shouldn't have said that. I am an artist,
Yes.
but I really
Good.
like the coaching thing too. And I love health. So, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. I just remembered before we leave, had to ask you, have you heard of Zofia Clemens?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so
I went on their website several years ago. I downloaded their diet. I read it. Um, I don't really like organ meat. Their diet
yeah,
it's all carnivore. It's very high fat and very high in organ meat. That's what
yeah,
the Sophia Clemens with Paleo Medicina. They changed their name, and I can't ever remember the name.
I
But
know, I
they
am too,
did
but
have some case studies about type 1 diabetes. And so I looked very closely at it, and I almost got a consultation, but I decided not to.
okay. Well, I know that the person who they were actually able to get their pancreas producing the insulin again, wasn't he like fairly young, like a 19-year-old?
He was 19 and he was fairly newly diagnosed as well.
Yes. Yes. So, but I think it's really important that finding was there because it just lends itself to that if you catch it early enough, and for people who are newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, if you catch it early enough and you can go on a carnivore diet, you know, you can hopefully get your pancreas, your beta cells working properly again.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she has definitely a very, I'm glad that you to hear that. It sounds like you really do your research and you're
Well,
very
yeah,
aware.
I take it pretty seriously, and
Yeah.
I think I've listened to every single interview she's done. So, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. I know she's really frustrated. Ah, thank you. I've heard her, she's really frustrated with the medical community. Um, and and it sounds like she's had trouble getting the word out about her findings with all of her research. So, I'm gonna type her name in here too, because it's like
Thank
Zsofie, and then is it Clemens CLEM?
Hey,
Uh, it would help if I had my hand on the right keys. Clemens, and this is
yeah, they used
research.
to call Paleo Medicina, and if you buy the
Yeah.
diet on their website, I think it's $30. It explains the diet really carefully.
Yeah. So I'm gonna write Paleo Medicino as her website, and she's a researcher. She's a nutrition researcher, um, a PhD, but she's very passionate about carnivore diet. She doesn't call it the carnivore diet, but she is very clear on her that it is meat and fat, and yeah, and eating head to tail.
Right.
Oh,
Yep.
but there are like organ supplements that you can take, and if you watch my interview with Adam from the other night, you'll know we talked a little bit about that. That he takes some desiccated liver capsules. So there's other ways of getting it. So
Yeah.
yeah, awesome. Well, I hope that people who are older can get you given them hope that you can heal, and don't just buy into, well, this is just aging.
Right.
Right.
Yes,
Exactly.
You're definitely an inspiration. So awesome. Okay, well, I am going to let you go, and I really appreciate everybody who has been here and who's been in the comments section. You guys are awesome. The carnivore community is fantastic. And go follow Aimee. Keep, she's doing good things out there, and yeah, trying to really make an impact in the community. So give her your love and support. So, all righty.
All right. Thank you so
It's
much.